our guest speaker tonight. I've had an opportunity to work directly with this student and this graduate of our university, and so I wanted to introduce you to Brian Dolan. He is a graduate of our nursing from our nursing program in the class of 2015. While he was at Scranton, he was a RA. He was an orientation assistant. He participated in SMART, Spark, and led FIRST and Search. He participated in service trips with Homeboys Industries, WorkFest, and in El Salvador. He also was a peer facilitator for the ISP Nicaragua service trip. It's also important to mention that he was voted Mr. Scranton in 2014. After graduating, Brian worked as a nurse in New York City for 2 years and then left to do a year of service with JVC Northwest in Boise at a primary health clinic. Brian has worked the past 2 years as an ICU nurse for Sloan Kettering Memorial in New York. Please help me welcome our alum and someone we really care about and are so pleased that you're here tonight. Please help me welcome Brian.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Barbara. So I was really excited when I was asked to do this because sometimes you just kind of get obviously with everything going on right now, but you get so distracted with working and with life that you forget kind of like how you got to the place that you were at and what decisions you made and how everything all contributed into it. So this was kind of a great reflection experience for me too. So I think, so thank you for that. And thank you for inviting me as well. And it's nice meeting all of you virtually in these interesting times with everything going on. So I guess I'll just start with a little, Barbara was telling you a little bit about my experiences. And I tell people that my Scranton experiences were kind of bookended by service, which was kind of cool. And I'll talk that, like the first thing that I did when I started was the first program with, it was the community outreach office when I started. I don't know if I'm dating myself by saying that, but so I signed up for this program, just kind of, I don't know, like a way to maybe make some friends. I did Boy Scouts when I was in high school. We didn't do any like what I would consider serious service or anything really that impacted me. I did FIRST and I met a lot of like-minded people. People that know me now may forget that when I'm in newer group situations that I'm a little bit quieter and my personality doesn't really come out as much. So I liked the service part of it, but I didn't really make, I guess, too many friends from the first program, but I really enjoyed the service aspect of it. And it was the first time actually kind of going out into a community that I hadn't grown up in and seeing like, oh, wow, like there is a lot of disparities in this. And there's, oh, like I'm going to college here and it's like, wow, this is interesting. Like there's all this other, and which kind of like I learned very quickly that the university community and the Scranton community can be kind of like two separate entities, but that's what I liked so much about the community outreach office, or Center for Service and Social Justice, excuse me, is that there was this bridge that they were trying to make and that we continue to make even afterwards and even now to, reach out and see what we can do. And I think that's, I've taken that with me also, where everywhere that I've been and lived, like trying to like reach out, because I am lucky enough to kind of speak and live from a place of privilege, of course. And so just being aware of that is a lot of what I believe is that in regards to service, in regards to like behaviors, mental health, everything, is that awareness is one thing and behavior, intention, kind of carrying out, actually doing the action, they're two kind of separate entities. So like you can do one, but I think it's really important to do both. So anyway, so that was the start of my Scranton journey. I got involved in some service trips. When I was there, I did a fall break service trip, which I really enjoyed, and was starting to kind of put the pieces together a little bit of how like service was really becoming ingrained in me. And it didn't really click until I did the SMART program at the end of freshman year. And I saw, like I was a freshman. And so for people that aren't familiar with the SMART program was, there was a group of us mentors from the university, and they were a group of Scranton High School students who they identified as in need of some mentorship. And we did these programs every week. We did them about bullying and social media and self-expression. Kind of, we spent the semester before kind of coming up with ideas and training and creating these sessions. And then they split us into groups and we were able to mentor these students, which was cool too, because it was local Scranton students. And the connection that I had started to make with it was like, wow, these kids are, some of them are like a year or two younger than me. Like they're not that far away in age from me at all. And here I am at the university and talking to some of them, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of Scranton students, it was never a question of going to college. It was a question of where you're going to college or where you're going. Where for some of the students that I was working with, it was, am I going to go to college? What am I going to, it's just a question that I'd never thought about before. And then again, it's like, wow, like that's just, I'm so lucky and blessed to have never had to consider not being able to go to college. But, and that was kind of sitting in the back of my mind, but I was still a freshman. I was still trying to make friends, still trying to figure out what I wanted. I joined the Frisbee team. I made some friends there, and it's Pat's favorite sport, her dog sport. So it's, but I made a lot of my friends through that too. Because and I'll go in, I have made a lot of kind of self-revelations in the past like year or two, which I'll get into in my post-Scranton journey. But I realized that service and physical activity kind of bring out like everything that is kind of the best of me, I guess. And so I realized that like I ended up not really continuing with Frisbee and later into my Scranton career because I got so involved with service and school and everything, and you kind of have to pick and choose but I made a lot of my friends in that way, and a lot of my friends kind of overlapped with that too, which was really great. So I tried to really, like freshman year, just kind of cast my net over as many things as I could, and then just figure out what stuck. Going into my sophomore year, that's when I kind of went feet first. I did ISP, I did OA, or orientation assistant. I did another service trip to New Orleans, and they were all great. Like ISP was really great. It was the first time that I really thought about service in kind of like a global scale, like outside of my own little bubble, even outside of the Northeast, even like going to New Orleans for the service trip that I did, and just seeing the disparities kind of everywhere. And it's overwhelming, but it's just, it's great to be able to really open your eyes to that and get your hands really dirty in every aspect of that. And I was lucky enough to do Search too. I was a participant on Search. That was when I first met Kathy, and I met Barbara my sophomore year too, because I applied to be an RA, and there ended up being a situation where they needed somebody to step in for a couple weeks, and I just became an RA kind of early. So I met all these great people at Scranton. I had known Pat since freshman year, but I met all these people that ended up becoming big mentors for me too. And people that really are ingrained in service in their everyday life. They really just live it. Like there's no, that kind of what I was saying before, like the intention and the actual behavior, like they have those like hand in hand basically. So it's people, it's one of the other things that I realized, that you need these mentors, you need people to look to. You don't have to do exactly what they do, but you can follow their example and everything that they strive to be. And you don't feel like you're doing anything wrong then. You don't feel like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing, like you don't, there's no doubt then. You just kind of go forward. And I had kind of what I was talking about with SMART, where where we had like these students where we were around the same age. I kind of had, it kind of got pushed to the back of my mind. Like you do other service experiences and you realize that you forget easily about things, and things, you know, again, life gets in the way. And I did the Spark program going into my senior year, or going into the summer of my junior year. And that's where I met my friend Chris Troisi there. That's when we became very close. He's one of my best friends there. And with that, it's very similar to SMART, except you just, every day, you're just, it's like a summer camp almost, where it's a group of like 10 university students and a group of 10 Scranton prep students. And you have a similar group of middle school age, high school age, local Scranton kids, basically. Similar programs that you're doing. And that's when, and at one point we were sitting, it was at the lake house, we're sitting in the cafeteria, and one of these, like, we're talking about these aha moments. One of these aha moments was, I was looking at a prep student sitting next to a Scranton High student. I said, these kids are the exact same age. They are the exact same age. They come from the same place. They go to school 2 miles from each other, maybe less than 2 miles from each other. And what, like, their upbringings are just wildly different. Why? And not saying that it's a good or a bad thing. It's like just being aware of that fact, that you could, even if they didn't grow up in Scranton, the Scranton prep student or the Scranton High student, they're, whatever their life bring, they're in the same place right now. And just being aware of that really was, it kind of just blew me away, where we have the privilege of being able to kind of like see into the lives of these students. And that was my aha moment too, where service is kind of stepping in for that brief moment into whoever you're serving or whatever you're serving, basically. And so it just was so interesting to me to see, like, to step into that Scranton prep student and step into that Scranton High student, because I realized from doing ISP, from doing these service trips, that you're also stepping into your fellow people that you're serving with too, not just the people that you are serving, but the people that you're serving alongside. And I think that's, I mean, there's the Jesuit men and women for and with others. So you're with others, not only with service, but like kind of side by side with the people that you're serving as well. And I just realized that going into my junior year that, you know, I had picked the right profession too, because nursing was a service profession. And I just knew, like, I'm going to be working alongside nurses. I'm going to be working alongside patients, nurses. And it's, you know, similar situations I see sometimes when next to me laying in bed is a 27-year-old guy who, that could be me too. That could be any of us. Like, who, it's somebody, like, you just never know. It's, I call like illness the great equalizer, just because it can happen to anybody. And so that's jumping forward a little bit there, but that's, that was one of my aha moments that I still kind of take with me. And going on through like my junior year, I was an RA. I did search too my junior year, and I was on the search team, which was really great too. Just being able to have that experience in a really intense academic year, and also with some personal things I had going on as well. And with search, I realized that I was an RA. I liked being an RA, but my RA experience, it took me away from a lot of my friends. It took me away from my service that I liked to do. It took me away from the office, and I just realized that I couldn't do it anymore. So my senior year, I moved off campus with my friends. I did like a total 180, and I just was like, I have one more year at Scranton. If I don't want to be doing this, I shouldn't have to do this. And it was a sacrifice, of course, because of all the benefits that come along with being an RA, but it was really the first time that I made a decision that was like a decision like that, where I went with more of like what was in like my chest rather than like my head was like, what do you mean? You're giving away free housing, you're giving away free room and board, you're getting your own room. It gets, and I just was like, this, I need to go with what feels right. And I don't regret it. Even, there's, you have to, the decisions that you make, you have to live with them. And there's pros and cons to everyone, but I look back and I enjoyed my experience as an RA, and I enjoyed my senior year I was a peer facilitator, and I did, every Friday I did effort where I would drive to a supermarket and pick up food. And I just loved being involved in the service part of it. And a lot of that was kind of missing from my life, my junior year. And it wasn't the last time that I did something that my head was saying, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? Because I ended up, well, when I get to talking about GVC too. And when I talk about kind of bookending my Scranton experience, I thought it was, I did, I was peer facilitator for Nicaragua after my senior year, going into the summer after I graduated. And I thought, all right, like this will be a great way to go out and finish my Scranton experience. And I finished, and I was like, oh, I just wish that there's one more experience I can do. And it was one of these serendipitous moments that happened because I had just taken my nursing license test, and I get a frantic call from Pat Vaccaro that says, can you come up for a week? We just lost a Spark mentor. Somebody needs to come up. We don't have anybody. And I said, well, in 2 hours, I'll find out if I passed my nursing boards. And then I'll let you know, basically. And it was a no-brainer though, even after. I was like, and I hung up the phone. I said, even if I fail this nursing boards terribly, I have to do this. Like this is just what I have to do. It's one of these things. And I ended up passing, thankfully. And I called her right back, and I said, all right, I'm packing my bag. I'll be there in 2 hours. And I threw stuff, and I just drove out there, and and it was like the greatest way to end my Scranton experience, in all honesty. Like it just was so fun. And it just was it was my whole Scranton experience summed up, because I was the most senior person there too. So I had kind of the opportunity to mentor some of the mentors too, which, I didn't even realize it at the time, but just kind of suggesting ideas and just people looking to me. And I realized like, oh yeah, I guess I've done a lot of this kind of stuff, and I know how these programs work. And I got to meet Sarah Brown when she was a lowly prep student, who's now queen of the service office. And it's so great everything that Sarah's been doing is so great, because I met her as she was like going into her senior year of high school, and now she's doing everything's so great. So that's why I saw her name, and I was like, there's Sarah. Sarah was like I ended my Scranton experience, and she just picked right where I left off, basically. So it just was really great to see. And then I graduated, and went into the real world. I had contemplated doing JVC, just because it was one of those things where, you're involved in service, and a lot of people end up doing JVC, and it wasn't the right time for me, because I had, in the winter, I had gotten a job offer, and it was the kind of thing where, I'm looking and I'm like, I can't pass up this job right now. As much as I want to go out and serve, it was one of those decisions where, again, like life, sometimes you just have to make those tough choices. And I wanted to do JVC. I wanted to do a year of service, but it wasn't the right thing at that time for me to do. And I remember I was talking to Kathy Seymour about it, and Kathy, because I was like, I feel bad, like I really want to do this year of service. And Kathy said, what do you feel bad about? You're going to be a nurse. This is a job of service. And also, there's nothing that says that you should ever feel bad about not wanting to do a year of service. Like, whatever, you just need to feel fulfilled, basically. And I just appreciate Kathy so much, because Kathy I just wanted someone to be honest with me, I think, more than anything. And she really was. So I think about that conversation. And I think about it all the time. So thank you, Kathy. Um, and then I started work. I'm from New York originally, so I was commuting into New York City every day, or every 3 days, because for working like 12-hour shifts. And it was nice, I was making some pretty good money, and I was living at home, and everything seemed to be going okay. And anyone has graduated from college realizes that you go through kind of a mourning period after you graduate, where you miss kind of the life you had. You miss having all these opportunities. You miss hanging out with your friends. You miss kind of and it's a weird feeling, because you just like, all right, like I worked hard all these years. Like I thought I was going to be happy. I thought everything was supposed to be great and wonderful. And that's just not really how life works. But you still can feel fulfilled, which at first I thought that, everything's great. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what everybody's supposed to be doing. They're supposed to get a job. They're supposed to work. But I felt kind of that piece of me missing with the service aspect of it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was listening to a podcast recently, and they talked about this kind of experience called sliding that people go through, where you're not doing anything that takes away from, you're not doing anything destructive that takes away from your life, but you're also not trying to forward yourself. You're not trying to do it. It's just sliding. You're paying the bills, you're going to work, you don't want to rock the boat, basically. And that's kind of the feeling that I was like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to do, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like that there's something nagging in the back of my head that I need to do something else. I need to do something that I wanted to do, but it wasn't the right time for. And I just had one of those moments where I just realized I still want to do this year of service. I feel this calling to do this year of service. And so I started to do some research, and I saw this position with JVC Northwest in Boise, Idaho, where you could work as a nurse. And I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And it was one of those things where I would talk to people, and they said, oh, like, so Boise, does it pay well there? Like, why are you going to Boise? And when I said, well, I'm actually not getting paid at all, like, their eyes, they're like, what happened? Like, did you get fired? Like, what's going on? And it's a kind of thing where people that I would talk to that maybe aren't as familiar with Scranton students or the Scranton experience were kind of looking at me like, why are you doing this? Like, why, like, you have a pretty good life for yourself. And I would be talked to some Scranton people, and they said, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I can see why you want to do that. I can see. And it was another one of those moments where my head and my heart were telling me two different things. And it just, I took that leap of faith, and I went out to Boise, Idaho for a year, and it was a really great year. It was awesome. Initially, when I went out there, we had orientation in Portland, Oregon, and I got off the plane and I sat down and I picked up my phone and I looked at the map and I saw that I was in Portland, Oregon. And I like scrolled back to New York, and then I on like your iPhone, like the part where it puts in your location, I hit that and it drags me back to Portland. I'm like, oh my God, I am so far away. Oh my God, I gave up a paying job. What am I doing here? Like all these things start running through your head. And then like, and then again, then you sort of kind of start to calm down a little bit and realize that this is what your heart is telling you to do. And it was the right decision for me at that time. Um, and it was great. It taught me things that I didn't even know about myself. I lived with 5 girls and me, so it was the nicest smelling house I've ever lived in my life. It was um, I've met the people I lived with were from Seattle, one was from Michigan, one was, so I just had this like wealth of like cultural experience. I had living in the Pacific Northwest was just really great. And I almost stayed out there, but I worked in a clinic there that for underserved individuals and for homeless individuals and for anybody that needed help, and just working alongside providers and practitioners and people that had kind of a similar mindset that you did was just such an interesting experience, because I had done service at Scranton, but I had never done service specific to my career and specific to like what I felt a calling to do. So that just was a really, really great experience. And it's something that I think about like in the future when I'm looking to, you know, go to grad school and advance my career. Maybe this is something that I'd be interested in. Maybe working in a clinic like this as a practitioner, and so that's just it was a great experience. And so there's these in JVC there's these tenets of, so there's kind of the 4 values are community, simple living, spirituality, and spiritual ecological justice. And they're very broad, they're very kind of all encompassing, and it just is kind of how I wanted to live my life. And it was really difficult in a lot of ways. And a lot of the things that we did when we were in JVC, like I haven't really been able to realistically continue. But there's like little things that I was able to take with me, little like tidbits that kind of helped me live like a more fulfilled life for myself. And like randomly, like one of them, I was laughing about it. So I made like my own timeline for myself. And one thing that I always do now is you always get like junk mail in the mail from like whatever. And so anytime I have to write something down, I have like a stack of all the junk mail that I have, and I just like use the back of it. I'm like, this is such a waste of paper. And so I have like that ecological justice like banged into my head of just one of those like little things. And it just was, I don't know, it just was great. And I almost stayed out in Boise, but I realized doing a lot of self-reflection out there, which I hadn't done before, which was that I had a lot of things that I'd been kind of ignoring in my life, a lot of mental health issues, a lot of, I had kind of, you know, lived a physically unhealthy lifestyle for a lot of years. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to get the help I needed in Boise. I wouldn't have the support that I had at home, closer to New York. And I knew that if I want, like, I like being a nurse, but eventually I'd like to go to grad school and further my career, and the opportunities just aren't there for school out there. The jobs are there, yes, but if I wanted to go to school, it would just be that much more difficult. So I decided to come back after a year out there, and I went and got help, and I was able to kind of get a lot of my lifestyle under control. I was able to lose a lot of weight, which is by just addressing a lot of things. Initially, I was putting off a lot of my like mental health issues, but I I realized that with all that self-reflection that I was doing, that you can't do anything, you can't do it by yourself. You need help. So I went and got help, and it was the best thing that I've done for myself, in all honesty. And I wouldn't be able to talk like this and share anything about myself if it weren't for that. So just knowing that you're not alone is really what's opened my eyes about so much, and helped me in ways that like I can't even explain. And all of that just from doing the first program freshman year of Scranton, and just jumping off from there. So I mean, right now I've been working for the past 2 years at Memorial Sloan Kettering. It's a cancer hospital in Manhattan. It's been a great place to work. We got hit pretty hard by COVID, which, you know, it's been a weird time for everybody. I've been lucky enough to be able to go to work and not be stuck at home, but it's been difficult. And I think if I didn't have the experiences that I had before to help me cope with everything, that I don't know, like I just can't even imagine if I didn't have the support system of my friends from Scranton and my family and my community still from JVC, it would make things really difficult. And so right now, just, you know, I feel like maybe I'm sliding a little bit, but we're all just trying to keep our heads above the water. And as to my Scranton experience, I look back with a lot of pride, honestly, and a lot of happiness with everything that it taught me, everything I was able to do. One of the I don't want to spoil the rest of your activity, Sarah, but one of the things was that they wanted us to write down quotes of things that kind of help us or inspirational people. And a quote that I wrote down is, "Happiness is only real when shared." So just the community of Scranton, the community that I had in JVC, my community of friends from Scranton, my family, all of that has made me realize that service, sharing of yourself, of other people, like that's the greatest gift that you can give of all. So whatever it is that you feel called to do, whatever it is that you feel is the right thing to do for you, that's the best thing that you can do. And all it takes is, you know, taking that leap of faith sometimes, and maybe going the way that isn't expected of you, but what feels right. So yeah, I think that's yeah, it's my Scranton journey there. Sorry, it was a little long, but yeah.
No, it was perfect, Brian. Thank you so much for being so honest, and just you know, one thing I've always loved about you is how authentic you are, and how you really work hard at your relationships and being a part of a community. And service has always been something that has been obviously extremely important to you in the choices that you've made in your life. And so I know everyone who has ever had the opportunity to work with you and to know you and be your friend would say that. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It really was very inspirational, and it's great to hear your journey and how much you've grown and changed during your experience, and also as you've left Scranton, and the choices that you've made, and the leap of faith that you've taken so many times. So it really is it's a great tribute to your Scranton experience, but also to you as a human being, and being a role model for others. So thank you, Brian, so much. I wanted to